This is the Marathon Handbook podcast. I am your host. Who am I, guys? The new year, new us. I was just ruminating over how we introduce ourselves here. I always make a joke. I always make a comp for each of us. But I feel like it's 2025. It's a time of reinvention, early January. I am your host, Taylor Sheridan. That's who I would like to most emulate. Do you guys know who Taylor Sheridan is?
Who? That sounds like a golf club or something.
It does. It's like last names as a first as names. Taylor Sheridan is the creator and showrunner of Yellowstone, Lioness, and now Landman, amongst many other shows on the streaming service Paramount Plus, which is basically the extended Taylor Sheridan universe. Yeah, this guy, I'm so impressed by him because he just cranks out so much content, and that's why I would like to attempt to emulate him in 2025. Is just he's not afraid to make mistakes. He's not afraid to make batshit crazy stuff like Landman. I don't know if you guys have watched an episode of this. The show is bananas. It's like I'm embarrassed to say I watch it. But he just throws shit at the wall and sees what sticks. So 2025 to be more like Taylor Sheridan. And Alex, how would you introduce yourself?
Okay. My alter ego?
Yeah.
I'm going to try this year to embody Jerry Seinfeld. I'm going to be Jerry Seinfeld.
That's awesome.
Right. Wait a minute. Wasn't Jerry canceled a little bit?
Yeah, it was like 2 years ago. I
Okay.
think there's like a 6-month period, right?
Okay, he's off the bench. He's back in again.
He's back in. He's back on the nice list.
Okay.
What I like about Jerry Seinfeld, other than the fact that he's funny, is that he does something that I've always struggled with doing: merging work and enjoyment, work and passion.
Okay.
Which is kind of what I'm trying to do here, right? The Marathon Handbook, right? It's like taking something I really like, applying my work life to it. I remember he says this in a lot of talk shows, actually. It's like he talks about how he approaches comedy. And people who aren't in comedy, who aren't stand-up comedians, like myself, like both of you, like most people, I think that jokes just come from the woodwork to comedians and they channel it and they say it. But when he describes it, he says he works hard for 3+ hours a day, which doesn't sound like a lot, but that's hard writing, sitting at his desk,
work.
forcing himself to throw whatever he has in his head on paper and try to make it funny, try to make a joke sing. And he does this every day. It's like, it's hard, rigorous work, which you don't really think of comedy that way. And so that's what I want out of this year. It's like, stop expecting that, my best work is just going to come to me, but really force myself to take the attitude I have towards work. It's like hard work and apply it to fun things. So that way I'm Jerry.
Have you guys ever seen the documentary about him developing a new act? It came out a long, long time ago. I think it's called The Comedian. It's really good. And it just speaks to exactly what you're saying about like the amount of hard work he puts into coming up with new jokes and how he has to like workshop them and take them to like the Comedy Cellar in New York and like have them bomb. And it's, even though he's like, he's Jerry Seinfeld, right? But yeah, making mistakes, trying things.
Not to mention how hard that is probably for a comedian to show all of their lukewarm material to an audience and risk bombing. And it's probably even harder to bomb if you're Jerry Seinfeld. So there is that element of leaving the ego aside too.
Katelyn, we were worried that Alex was going to say he wanted to emulate Jordan Peterson in 2025.
What?
Oh my God. Okay. Didn't see that one coming.
You have to descend into the depths of despair and save your father from the belly of the beast. And so that's about as far as it's going to go.
We did that just to pull the imitation out of Alex there. Okay. Yeah. No, we'll leave that at that.
Oh my gosh.
Can we edit that out or
no? That's
staying. Is it staying in? Okay.
That's why the audience comes, Alex.
Oh my god.
So it's sort of like a like a Muppet in trouble or something.
It's the Kermit. It's the Kermit version of the JP impression.
I went straight to a Muppet.
Yeah. Katelyn, Tocci.
All right, guys.
Who are you? Who are you in 2025?
Okay, I'm going to go with, maybe this is going to surprise you guys. I'm going to go with Amanda Barnhart. I don't know if you guys know who that is. She's a famous, amazing, down-to-earth CrossFitter who I have just followed and watched for years. And she's super inspiring to me because I love watching her compete, but I don't follow many professional athletes. I'm going to be 100% honest here. And she's one of the handful of professional athletes that I follow because I just feel like everything that she posts is so inspiring and down to earth, and she works so incredibly hard. And I just want to kind of take on her idea, since I'm going to try to do this High Rocks event this year, if I find an available one. I kind of want to take on her whole way of looking at training and being down to earth at the same time. Well, I mean, obviously she's this incredible elite CrossFit athlete, but I just want to kind of, take a little bit, a page out of her book, maybe for this year, in the way that she focuses on training, recovery, and day-to-day stuff.
Oh man, I feel so inferior with my Taylor Sheridan pick now, Katelyn. You're like, in 2025, I would like to become a perfect human. Yeah. And you very well may achieve that. Before we pivot into the big topic of today, which is, I mean, what a segue. It's New Year, New You, 2025. You may be coming to us in this podcast because you're looking to try something new, something like, say, running for maybe the first time or getting back into it again. Like I am going to have to, and we're recording on Tuesday, January 7th, and I've got an interesting running streak going of my own right now, which is that I have not run in the new year, period. So
what happened?
Whoa.
Hold the phone.
Whoa.
Uh-oh.
What happened, Michael?
Hold on. Let me finish with the intro here.
Okay.
So this whole podcast will be devoted to how to start running, how to get back into running, how to get your groove back, how to get your groove going. We're going to provide a lot of tips and insights, including stories of our own origin stories, our own, shall we say, missteps.
I always say failures. You say missteps.
Sure. Failures. What you can learn from our trips and falls along the way to where we've got to today with running. But yeah, all that intro was, did you guys notice story came out today that I believe our colleague Jesse is putting out there. I did not prep you guys in the show notes for this, but marathon legend Paula Radcliffe is making a comeback with the marathon. And she's not running. Yeah, she's not running one, but she's running 2 marathons this spring. She's doing Tokyo, and then Katelyn, she's running Boston.
She's coming to Boston?
She's coming to Boston.
Awesome. So, that's super exciting.
You know what? Who knows? You don't know what maybe she's going to do that. Maybe she's going to trot through a 3-hour marathon and you guys can hold hands for the entire time.
Oh my goodness.
Never know.
Doubt it.
Yeah, she's a competitive animal. I can imagine she's looking at like whatever the 50 to 54 like age group world record is. I'm sure she's got like that number written down at this point. Like, I can get back there by April. Let's see what happens here. Anyway, so yes, let's take a quick break, and then we're gonna get into. Let's start with our stories. Let's start with our origin stories. How we got into running. We already know Alex could run before he could walk, but we'll talk about how Katelyn and I discovered this crazy sport, passion, obsession, lifelong pursuit that is running. And we'll be right back in a second. All right, and we're back. Before we get into a segment that we've entitled The Beginner's Guide, everything you need to know about how to start running, let's talk about how we started running. Now, Alex, get in the time machine. Take us back to the year 2012 when you were born. and Katelyn and I were just recovering from the 2008-2009 crash, putting our life savings back together.
That's right.
Yeah. And putting the mortgage down on the first house, so on and so forth. And Alex was coming out of diapers and putting the singlet on immediately. How did you get into running? I think we've touched on this here and there in previous pods. So if you're a long-time listener, you've probably stitched together each of our origin stories. And as we're hinting at with Alex, like Alex is a lifer. But when did it all begin?
Well, first, let me set the record straight and let you know that I'm born in 1995. Okay. And that's important to me. 95 is a cool year because it's the very tail end of the millennial generation. So I'm a millennial. I'm not even a Gen Z. So that makes me start my running career in 2004. So super relatable. I was 9.
Okay. That is relatable. I think a lot of people have like kind of a multi-stage origin story, right? And it usually starts with childhood running.
Yeah, I think so. And eventually I think my mistakes ended up being very common later on, but the start is not very interesting. I did every sport. I was best at running. I wanted to be a hockey player so bad, but I was small, I was brittle, and at 9 I was wired, just small and muscular. And so I did a regional championship on Prince Edward Island, the smallest province in Canada, but I didn't care. I took the win and that was it. It was like, okay, this is a sport I'm good at. When you're 9, you want to be good at things. And I kept going from there. So that's kind of the origin story. And more or less, other than some injured years, I kept running since then.
Yeah, you never stopped, right? You did high school, university, you ran 4-year university, and then you continued after university.
Yeah, I'd say the biggest decision to keep going was post-collegiate, like post-university. But from being a kid to being a young 22, 23-year-old, it kind of did itself because it was always inside of a structure somewhere. So yeah, it's been, this is my 20th year. This is a 20-year career.
That's cool.
Oh my gosh. Cool. I am double Alex's age and I've been running for like half the time. That's okay. That's all right.
You're not fine. Double his age, but
yeah, I'm doing the math on that. You are not 60 years old.
No, I'm not 60.
Yeah. Just feel it some days. That's
exactly.
Yep. Yeah. So yeah, Katelyn, I have a sneaking suspicion you and I have sort of more similar story arcs when it comes to getting into running and timelines and that sort of thing. Because we're roughly the same age too.
I can't believe that we haven't gone over this before, but going back and thinking about it, we haven't. No, well, for me, I started running as a necessity because as a kid, I think I did mention in a podcast previously that I was a soccer player. Like I played soccer my entire life since I was 5, and then I played all through high school. And then I got to college, and you guys know that I mentioned I studied music. So like, yeah, I'm going to Berkeley, super excited. You know, I've been like a super jock my whole life, but I'm going to music school. Okay. So get to music school, go to the front desk, like starting to learn, you know, it was in Boston. I lived in Boston, so I commuted. I wasn't living on campus. So I went in and I was like, so what's the deal with the sports? They looked at me like I literally had 3 heads. And I was like, well, you know, like sports teams or at least like clubs, like get soccer, basketball, something that I can get into. And they were like, we've got a yoga class on Tuesday nights.
Oh boy.
I'm like,
they're like we don't do, it's music school. What? We don't do sports.
Yeah. We don't do you see these guys smoking with their guitars out on Boylston Street? That's what they do.
Yeah, this was the aughts too, right? So this is like sometime in the mid 2000s when you were going to university?
2000.
Yeah. Okay.
I graduated high school 2000.
Yeah. So this was back in the day when like you could still smoke indoors in places. Like I think in a lot of restaurants you could still smoke. They were turning into that like there was that smoking section in the restaurant. You had to like choose. Right. You had to go into the restaurant and you had to choose like, would you like to go to the smoking section or the non-smoking section? This is the era in history we're dealing with here, right?
You could still smoke on the streets for sure. Yeah. And so you would I would round that corner on Boylston Street and you would just have like all the, you know, guys, the long hair and the, you know, rockers, and they were smoking and had the guitars. So I was like, okay, no, this is not it. I need to find plan B. So that's when I started running because I was always a team sports kind of girl. But literally from college, pretty much until Costa Rica. I just ran like a few times a week. I was one of those 30 minutes, maybe a few times a week just to kind of keep in shape. Nothing serious, not really getting into it until I got to Costa Rica. That's where I said, holy smokes, gorgeous weather, 365 days a year. And this is kind of fun. One of my friends, bunch of years ago, she was going to be turning 30. We're about the same age. So we're talking a little over a decade ago. She was turning 30 and she goes, hey, Katelyn, I'm going to run up and down the highest peak in Costa Rica for my 30th birthday. Want to do it? And I was like, yeah, Michael, this is like one of your projects, right?
Yeah.
Like, well, yeah.
Love
like,
it.
Yeah. And I was like, yeah, I love that. Like, I don't really run. I run maybe 30 minutes 3 times a week. She's like, don't worry. We'll train together. We'll do it. So she was an ultra runner. So she got me into it just right off the bat. And I was like, yeah, sure. So we started going on these long runs and I would train a little bit more during the week, but it was just something casual and it was super fun. The highest peak in Costa Rica is called Chiripo. And like if people come and they hike it and it's awesome, but there's also a race there where you run up as fast as you can and then run down as fast as you can. Super dangerous. Super awesome. One of the most famous races in the country. And I say dangerous because it's like technical and extremely steep. So on the downhill, you just see people like toppling and falling all over the place. But
that kind of race. I like it.
Exactly. So this friend of mine, Jean May, her name is, she got me into ultra running right off the bat. And so I think that's really where my starting story was here. And the rest is just history. Just started totally getting into it, met a ton of people, community, doing races. And, so yeah, my biggest step was probably here in Costa Rica where trail running became my entire life.
Yeah, it becomes like a big slippery slope, the whole thing. Like even Alex with your experience, right? It's like probably the big jump for you is like after university, the big what's next. Cause like maybe 3/4 of your peers or half your peers will just kind of fade out of running because it turns out it was about competition. It was about the team experience. It was just something you find yourself doing from childhood into early adulthood. And then when you have to make your own decision and set your own goals, there's sort of like this cliff that you've got to jump off. And it's like a little bit of a leap of faith. And then also you got to find your tribe, right? You got to find your group. You got to find people who are like, hey, I'm training for this 10K or I'm training for this time. Or in your case, Alex, like I'm going to start training for like a half marathon because it's this interesting goal. And there's these peers that you're kind of battling against that you're familiar with from university days. So there's like, there's a draw, there's a community to kind of go to. So it's more than just like, I need to get my shit together and like,
and exercise.
Yeah. And we'll talk all about that, right?
Yeah.
Like we'll get into this in this pod, sort of unpacking, I think some of the ways you can consciously be strategic and set yourself up for success and for kind of like all of these things that we've just fallen ass backwards into over the last 10 to 20 years. Right. So my story is kind of a mixture of both of yours. I was a very mediocre runner in school, but I did run. I was a hard worker and I think I had an aerobic capacity. I was a swimmer first. Played all the sports. Mm-hmm. Running wasn't really a thing that like I was necessarily deeply drawn to. And it wasn't like, by no means was it like a sexy aspirational sport, right? Like I was, Alex, like you, I was into hockey. I was into team sports. I was certainly into swimming because that was like my life. That was like our family sport. Me and my sister both swam from age 5 until 18, like obsessively. So, and highly competitively. So I ran in high school, maybe scored on the cross country team, maybe didn't, kind of just like, I always liked training. Went to a university that did not have a varsity running program in either track or cross country, which I was totally fine with. And
you were probably more at home on Boylston Street with Katelyn's buddies.
Yeah,
that's correct. I absolutely was. Lived in Montreal, late 1990s, early 2000s. Let me tell you, it was a different time. It was a very different time. One day, if we ever have to face private healthcare, Alex, and AI starts scanning these podcasts, they're going to come to this podcast and they're going to be like, what's he talking about? Should we cancel his health insurance? Maybe we should. He had a dark phase. Yeah.
I like her to reiterate, I began running when I was 9.
I have been healthy my entire life.
There was no dark phase for Alex.
No, never.
I have never smoked or drank excessively.
No, everything is normal and fine.
Yes. I was not that guy in my late teens, early 20s. And then you kind of discover when you're 25 that you're not invincible. You're not going to live forever. It's a very common story. I'm sure a lot of people are listening right now, either if you're coming to this podcast because you like searched in Spotify or Apple Podcasts, like how to start running. You're like, oh yeah, I am that person right now. I'm 23 or whatever and just finished university, and I don't know where to start, but I know that it's not going to get any better or easier as I age. And I think I just had a little bit of foresight. It was like a moment of maturity where I was like, And then I was playing sports. I was playing squash regularly. I was doing this kind of like yuppie young career guy thing where I was like going at lunchtime and playing squash with a guy. And he got really into like strength training and weightlifting. And I went the other way. I was just like, you know what? I always have really enjoyed endurance sports. And I just started running on my own. And I did it in a really like half-assed, ridiculous, half-assed / all-in way where I was like, every day I'm going to run 10K 5 days a week, mostly at night, as hard as I can every day. I think I've maybe mentioned this before.
Classic.
Yeah. And I was like timing myself. And I was like, let's see if I can get close to 40 minutes per 10K per day. And, you know, I'm not a super talented guy. And I probably had a lot of physical, groundwork to lay down early on in that phase. I messed myself up pretty bad and learned from that first couple of months, and then started to seek out just what we're going to talk about today, which is like figuring your way out in the dark, the structure of it all, like how to do this in an intelligent way. What are the paces I'm supposed to run? What kind of shoes am I supposed to run in? That sort of thing. And it just led me down this crazy garden path that was almost 20 years ago. So there we go. So
and you're still running 10K as hard as you can every night since then.
It's my daily 10K awaits me this evening. I like to do it at just, I keep the tradition alive. I started around 10:30 p.m. and yeah. And then I'm like throwing up on the side of a trail in Montreal somewhere. And then I'm like walking home. Yeah. Because I'm also an idiot and I just run 10K as hard as I can in one direction. Yeah.
So it ends up being a nice solid 20 every day.
That's right. Nice walking experience at the end. Okay, guys, let's take a quick break and then we'll roll into just how to start, like where day one is and how you kind of get the ball rolling from there. We'll be right back. All right, and we're back. Where else do we start? But we start at the start, right? It's always hard to go from nothing to something. I think it's the hardest thing to do in life. I think running is super intimidating for people, especially if they've never run before, if they haven't run since they were a kid, or if you're like me and you just have been procrastinating from starting to run again after a little Christmas break and you're just like, okay, I've got to start now. What's the very first, Coach Katelyn, let's pivot to the coach here.
Okay.
Get your whistle and your stopwatch out here. When you're dealing with somebody who's like, hey, I want to run. I've never run before, or I haven't run in 10 years. Mm-hmm. What's the very first thing you start with? What's your advice for starting?
I would say, okay, when I have a new runner and I analyze their fitness level first. So if it's someone who has said to me, I'm not a runner, but I do HIIT workouts, or I do CrossFit, and I've done team sports, or there's something there that's going to be very different than someone who says, I've never run before. So for our listeners, our new listeners who are listening to this, or our old listeners who have a friend or a family member who has never, ever, ever run before and are looking for these tips, I always start as a coach with a run walk method, just because I feel like getting out there and not getting injured in the first couple of weeks is probably the most important thing, because what you want to do, as Michael's just saying, running can be really intimidating, is you want to continue to stay motivated. If you're excited to get started, you want to be excited to continue. And so what can happen is you can do too much too fast really, really quickly with all that excitement and get burnt out, overtrain, and get injured. So what I like to do with anyone who's really, really new and who's been pretty inactive is start with a run walk program. So I just take away most of that risk right off the bat. So let the body adapt, run every other day, right? Do the run walk situation every other day, not every day, even though those 40-minute 10Ks that Michael was hammering out in his 20s is
not recommended.
Not
recommended even for the fittest person to do that. That's madness.
It's madness. So I would say, start out with a walk run. And if you are really, really new, I'm talking, see what's comfortable for you. Jog a minute or two, and then walk a minute or two. And what you have to do is kind of feel find that sweet spot where you need to start, a minute on, 2 minutes walk, a minute on, 2 minutes walk. And then every single time that you go out running, if that felt really, really good, then you switch it up a little bit and you do a minute and a half and you do the 2 minutes. You just do everything very gradually. So you feel good, you feel comfortable, and you're able to gradually increase your volume and allow for your musculoskeletal system to adapt little by little, and your cardiovascular system as well, right? I mean, you want to have fun and you want to keep going. So I would say run walk is probably my number one rule for brand spanking new runners.
Right. So like 5-1 or 10-1, like classic, couch to 5K type tips. It'd be like,
yep,
move your way up to like running for 5 minutes, taking a 1 minute walking break, and then run for 10 minutes, take a 1 minute walking break, and then build up your endurance that way. Or I would say, if you don't want to do the run walk thing and you're ready to just like dive into the deep end and not do the version of what I did, I would say just, Alex, like when you're out running, when you're out pounding the asphalt on the Martin Goodman Trail in Toronto, Canada, as you do, we see a lot of runners. It's like one of the great highways of running in one of the big cities in North America. A lot of people, a lot of newer runners. You can tell newer runners because they are running too fast, right? And you can tell it's like, that's not a workout. You're new to running and you think it should feel hard, right?
Yeah. That to me is one of the hardest things to try to impart on a new runner. I get an odd demographic reaching out to me with running advice. So as I mentioned, I used to be a hockey player, and a lot of my friends not from running, who are these people who are in their mid to late 20s to early 30s now, who are trying to find a new way to take care of their bodies, are athletic or competitive, and they don't want the run walk. I actually made call it a coaching mistake once with a friend of mine. Reached out and said, listen, I want to get into running and I don't know how. And I was coming back from a long-term injury. And so I had become very cautious around the sport and about the sport. And so this is a friend of mine. So I made him a training plan that involved a lot of run walk at the start. I think the first like full run was in week like 4 or 5. It was a really slow build up, maybe well suited for a beginner. What happened was this guy quit after 3 weeks because he was so bored. It was like he wasn't having fun.
He's like looking at his watch and he's like, the timer's going off and it's like, oh, gotta walk again for a minute here. Okay.
Yeah. And for a guy who used to play elite hockey, right, that doesn't really work out. And so there is an element of knowing thyself. But
right.
You mentioned, Michael, this like, the Martin Goodman Trail in Toronto kind of feels like, have you guys seen Mufasa, the new Lion King, where there's just like all walks of life running towards towards Malele, like the promised land. Right now, this is the trail. There's like hundreds of people all looking different, running towards something similar. We don't know what it is. And yeah, a lot of people are hustling really hard.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the challenge that, like, you know, if you're listening, you want to get yourself a coach, but also you got to know thyself to an extent. Like, am I straining hard every day?
Mm-hmm.
If so, that's bad. But also, am I bored with my own runs and not even breaking a sweat? You probably want to avoid that too, right?
Yeah, it's kind of a tricky balance, right? Because we talk about the famous conversation pace, right? So you want to be working out at a conversation pace, especially when you're starting, to really build that aerobic base, right? And to feel easy. But I have new runners. I love coaching new runners. I have a lot of new runners, but I never feel like I'm in a conversation pace unless I'm actually in the walking part. So I think that we also need to say, just go slow enough where you feel as though you can keep it up for the intended interval, not to push too hard. But also, if you don't feel 100% comfortable at first, please understand that that's completely normal, right? Because you may feel out of breath. It's going to take you a little bit of time, because they say, but I only feel comfortable when I'm walking. So that's completely normal, that you're going to need to adapt your system, right? So, but like Alex said, just try to, turn it down a little bit. If you need to stop all of a sudden and you can't keep jogging, you're probably going too fast.
Yeah. I mean, I coach little kids. I coach elementary school kids, and we talk about, we do the talk test all the time, where it's like, okay, pick a running partner. We're going to run easy, and then let's practice the talk test. Have a conversation. If you can get a full sentence out, you're doing okay. If you're struggling and you're huffing and puffing as you're trying to talk, you're probably running a little harder than you need to. Although, if you're just starting, that might be the starting point, and that's okay. That's cool. And then maybe you should consider the run walk method at that point. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about, and one last thing. Oh man. Alex made me think of this when he was talking about the Martin Goodman Trail. And then referring to like the law of the jungle when referring to the Lion King. Good piece of advice for beginners and experienced runners alike is just stay within yourself. Don't worry about what other people are doing.
You're stealing my big advice for later.
Sorry. I'm pulling it back.
No, this is worth saying twice. Keep going.
Yeah.
That's all I'll say is just for now. We can belabor this point towards the end. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about gear. Wouldn't be a Marathon Handbook podcast without just nerding out on a little bit of gear. But I would say that, like, the keep it simple, stupid kind of mantra is really key when you're beginning, because it is so easy to go down the gear rabbit hole fast, because especially if you're somebody who is prone to buying stuff, AKA you're a human in the 21st century, you're going to be thinking to yourself, like, I need so much stuff. I need to buy this. I need to buy that. My friend's got this. What about those weird Jawbone headphones and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, you just need, really, running is a beautiful thing, because you really just need a decent pair of running shoes and some apparel that you feel comfortable and confident in running, and that aren't going to stink to the high heavens after running them a few times. So yeah, what's one key piece of gear, Alex? You're the gear maestro here at Marathon Handbook. One key piece of gear. I mean, I guess the obvious one would just be like a decent pair of shoes.
Oh my God. Yeah. I struggle to suggest anything other than a decent pair of shoes, but I'll double down on that, because if you're starting out, you go to a running store, you want to buy a pair of shoes. We're in Canada, so I'm going Canadian dollars. We'll try to do the conversion as we go.
Okay.
Most brands now, their top training shoe is something like 210 Canadian dollars, probably something like 160-ish USD. Okay. Yeah. And so they're usually sitting at the top of the pedestal on the shelf at the store. And underneath you will have a bunch of different shoes that are $20, $40, $60 cheaper. If you can muster it, go for the top shoe. And by top shoe, I don't mean racing shoe or super shoe. If you want one training shoe, get the brand's best training shoe. And if you're not sure, get someone at the store to help you and say, listen, I like Asics. I want the best Asics training shoe, or I like New Balance. I want the best New Balance training shoe. Obviously, self-plug, check our YouTube channel too, because we do review shoes in depth. But that's kind of it. Like, if you can spend that extra $50 and make sure that, you know, you don't develop really bad plantar fasciitis, it's worth it. It's absolutely worth it.
I would say, I'll put it in the show notes that you're the best training shoes to go with right now. I'll put that in the show notes, because I think you cover those eloquently and beautifully in the YouTube channel. So I'll make sure to put that in there. Yeah.
What was your first pair of training shoes? You guys remember way back when? Well, Alex was 9, so he doesn't remember.
Mine had Velcros, I think.
Yeah.
My first pair, I actually had like a really early pair of Nike Vomeros, and now I think they're on like 18 or something. Yeah. So I guess that kind of checks out.
That makes sense.
Shoe. Underrated
shoe. The 2s or the 3. They were neon yellow, and that's why I bought them, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I kept them for way too long, something like 2 years.
So when I started the 5 times 10K as hard as you can run a week method, I need to call that something. I need to like 5 times 10 equals stupid. I'm not sure what that is, but that's the very first couple of weeks was in a pair of New Balance 574s, like the lifestyle shoes.
Oh, God.
Okay.
Yeah. Which, in my defense, or it was not the 574s, it was the other ones. What number are they? 994? 994? No, that's a running shoe. The ones that are a little bit more of a running shoe.
Okay.
But are still now definitely a retro.
I can picture what I know.
Shoe.
Yeah.
And in my own defense, this was, the mid-aughts. So like that shoe was not an ironic lifestyle shoe. That was not a millennial Gen Z style moniker. That was just a shoe that was like kind of out of fashion that I still had, because I had it from probably the 90s.
Okay.
So it was a really old pair of running shoes. Very typical scenario where it's like, I have these are here. I will use these. These look like running shoes. And then very quickly I realized when my feet started to really hurt, I was like, okay, I think combination of just like running really, really unintelligently and then running in a really old worn out pair of shoes that weren't really for running. I think my next pair after that was probably a pair of Nike Pegasus or a pair of like Asics Nimbus, something like that. I went to a running shop and I was like, and Alex making the classic mistake initially where I was like, ooh, that's the most expensive and shiny shoe. I want that. And thankfully the person there was like, actually, that's like way too much shoe for you. You don't need it. It's needlessly expensive. And you should instead get this very reasonable everyday trainer.
As you were leaning towards like a racing shoe at first.
I was either leaning towards a racing shoe or like a really overbuilt, like Asics used to like create like really over designed, over cushioned. Like I think the Cumulus and the Nimbus used to fall into this category back in the day, where it was like all sorts of gel pods and whatever.
Yes. Yeah,
and it was like the first shoe at like close to $180 or $200. It was a really expensive shoe. Anyway, stayed away from that, thankfully. Shout out to the staff member at like Running Room, which is a chain of running stores in Canada, that saved me from myself. What else, guys? Like just obviously like sweat wicking clothing instead of cotton.
I mean, I think most new people are going to want to track their progress in some sort of way. Even if you're a beginner, if you want to go old school and just go out running without anything, I don't think many people do that anymore. But getting some sort of a basic running watch or smart watch where you can track what you're doing, just at least you can see distance and time. Something that you can put your intervals in would be really excellent. So you don't need to count minutes, and you can just, have the watch beeping at you when you need to do the different intervals for walk, run, and that sort of thing. So I'd say any sort of gadget that will help you track your progress, something basic at first would be a really good idea. It'll motivate you to get started, and you'll be able to look back on what you've been doing.
Yeah, I'd say like Garmin's, treat yourself a little bit. If you got the extra coin, the Garmin Forerunner, the basic one, the 165, more than enough watch, even probably for the three of us, quite frankly. It's just more than enough. It's going to give you like the really key metrics you need are, your overall time and distance you've covered accurately with a GPS unit. And then a really nice thing to know is your overall pace and your pace per kilometer, right? Right. Those are valuable statistics to study. And then you can get into the nitty gritty of like, what's your heart rate? What was your heart rate in these different moments of the run? Those are nice things to look at if you're a data person, to see like, okay, was I really in the coveted zone 2 or wasn't? Or was I actually in zone 3 or 4, but lying to myself, saying I was in zone 2,
in the red zone?
Yeah, in the red zone. Yeah, I would say also Coros makes good products as well. They're another running watch company. They make actually a pretty affordable entry level running watch as well. Hey, Apple Watch. Alex and I are both fans. If you've got a basic Apple Watch that was made in the last 5 years, it's got a GPS unit in it that's good enough. And the Apple Watch like workout running program is actually like cooked into the watch itself. Is totally fantastic. So go for that. Do any of you have a really old, like, do you have like it's like a original text but in garment format? Do you have one of the original garments that you started running in? I mean, Alex wouldn't, because that would be super
that's where you're wrong.
Okay.
That's where you're wrong. When I'm cheating a little bit because I received this in grade 9. Okay. Because this is after my first tiny growth spurt. I was given this black singlet that said PEI on it. It was a like dry fit singlet that was from an old provincial team. So Prince Edward Island PEI, because the following year, I was going to represent the province at the national championship, and they didn't really have new gear. So they said, look, whenever you go, wear this singlet. The problem with the singlet was that it was way too big on the chest. And so my tiny narrow chest would kind of dangle on both sides of the singlet, and the singlet would dance around. And so the unfortunate thing that happened with it was I wore this singlet for my first real road race, which I think was in grade 11, because before then all I did was track and school cross country. I didn't really dabble in road racing, but there was this 6-kilometer race 20 minutes from home that I thought, well, I should try this. This is in the summer. It was the first year I told myself, like, I'm going to try to run year round. Let's see how that goes. And so I wear this singlet, and I happened to win the race because it wasn't a very competitive race.
He just happened to win the race. And
just happened to win.
Just slide that right in.
There. Yeah. Okay.
It was good enough for the front page of the sports section of the Western Prince Edward Island Journal. The problem was I was there, singlet was there, all tossed to the right with a beautiful left nip slip.
A nip slip.
And I think it's because of that. I've always kept the singlet. It honestly kind of still fits. And
do you still have the news clipping? Now. Do you still have the
I think my mom has it. Yeah.
I feel like I need to talk to Madame Cyr, and I feel like you need to have that presented to you, like the photo with the singlet framed behind glass, immortalized, so you can hang that in your condo wall.
I can put it in the background for the YouTube channel. And if anybody's curious, you can go far enough on my Facebook, and you can probably still find it.
It's there. Nice.
I think it's there. Yeah.
Nice. Katelyn, any 2010 memorabilia that you need to put on the wall of shame?
this is going to sound awful, guys, but I don't hang on to a lot of stuff, and I regret it. I'm big
You
into...
regret it? Oh, you're better. You're better than I am with my knickknacks.
I do, because I don't have... Oh, no, but that's nice. It's nice to have all that stuff later on to look at. Like, now in my 40s, I'm beginning to like save little things to have for memories and down the way. But especially when I did my big move to Costa Rica, I just donated a ton of stuff. And every few years or so, we do a lot of like drives here for running shoes and running equipment for, we do that all the time within the running club. And so I don't really keep a lot of stuff, and I don't have a lot. I don't have anything. I don't have something old. What about you, Michael? What's your oldest piece of clothing there?
This is weird, but I still have one of the original pair of short shorts that I got in like the mid 2000s when I re-entered the running world as an adult. They're made by the company Kraft, which this dates me. This company like existed under a certain ownership in like the mid-aughts when I bought these shorts, and then went out of business and then came back. Like the brand was like sold to a private equity firm or whatever. And now they're sort of back and trying to be cool. And I think they might have like come out with a shoe recently. We saw them at TRE. I didn't.
So we're not talking Kraft dinner here, are we?
No, we're not. We're talking Kraft, like I want to say like a Swedish or Danish brand. They also do other outdoor stuff. Like at the time they were doing a lot of cross-country skiing stuff, which I was doing. So I was like, that's why I bought into it. It's like, oh, this is a serious endurance sports brand. And it was tough to find split shorts or really short shorts. And I didn't want to run in a pair of ball shorts or a pair of like, listen, 5 inches is too long, guys. It's just, I need the shorts to be short. I've always been a middle-aged man at heart, and us middle-aged men, we like to run in split shorts all the time. I like to walk around in split shorts. So I've got a original pair of Kraft. They're so worn out that, like, this is TMI, but the underwear lining in the inside, the elastic's gone on them. I don't think there's a drawstring anymore in them, so it's like they have to fit perfectly. Have to be in like mid-season shape to wear them, but they're still in the drawer. They're still there. I can't let them go. Okay, that was too much. Let's move on.
It would be funny if we had. I know I'm totally dating us, Michael, but did you ever run with an anti-skip Discman?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I did. Oh yeah, in the 90s in high school when I ran, I definitely ran with like the Panasonic, like the shock one. Yeah,
you had to literally hold it, even though it was anti-shock. I feel like I still kind of held it like this, up in front of me when I ran.
To that, Alex says, what's a Walkman? What's a CD
Discman
player?
Yeah. I had one, but it was when I was a kid, and my parents bought me one the same year as they bought us a trampoline. It was the best birthday of my life. Massive dopamine hit in the backyard.
Actually. That's pretty
Alex, how old were you? Because I also received a trampoline as a birthday gift, and it was the best birthday ever.
I was 8, and I was so excited to see the trampoline in the backyard that I ran through the back screen and just popped through the screen with the Walkman on my ears.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So no, I had a Walkman, never for running though. By then the iPod Nano was coming.
Yeah.
Was a thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was
huge breakthrough in running technology was the iPod.
The shuffle. I loved the shuffle. Yeah, that was amazing.
Okay. Let's take a brief break, and then we'll get into, let's talk about some structure. Let's talk about how to like go from this madness of just running. I'm running a lot. I'm running. And then it's like, what do I do with that running? Which I actually need some help with now. And I'm a great example of why it's important to have structure. And we'll talk about that right after the break. All right, and we're back. I'm a prime example of why it is really important to self-impose structure with running. Because we're Jan 7th here as we record this, and I'm just swimming in a sea of like an abyss of chaos and nothingness. It's like I realize the reason why I kind of don't know what to do and where to start is because I am not on program right now. Mm-hmm. I am off program. And I need to get a program, and I need to put myself on a program so that I have that structure. So it's set it and forget it. It's today I do this, and that's all I have to think about, right? So like when Coach Katelyn.
Yes. Coaching hat on.
When you start running, when do you start looking for a program, and should you follow a program when you start?
I think that everyone and anyone should have a program, unless you just really want to just go out stress-free and run when you like to run because it's just, for fun and you're not looking to get better. I don't know. Everyone should have a program just because it is motivation. You feel a bit of accountability because you want to do that fun old, put the program on the fridge and check off the box when you do your workout. And also, as we were mentioning before, not only to build your consistency, but to also gradually increase volume, gradually increase intensity to get better and not get injured. So there are tons of reasons to follow a program. And just to mention, by the way, if you're listening out there and you don't follow a program, you can come to the site, because on Marathon Handbook, we have tons of different programs, from couch to 5K programs, marathon, ultra marathon, and everything in between for all different levels and time availability. So if you want to take a look, that is the best place to go, because we've got a ton of stuff and they've been used by just thousands of different athletes.
And they're all free. And they're all free. Yeah. And there's PDF versions you can download, slam it on your fridge and stare at it every day. So it keeps you accountable. Yeah. Or put it on your phone. I'll make sure I put a bunch of them in the show notes, because I think it's worth just sort of having them right there at our fingertips. So they will be in the show notes. Keep an eye out for them.
Time goals, volume goals, distance goals, just everything. You can find it there. But what I would say is, if you're going to follow a training plan and you're a beginner, a training plan, if you have pretty much a lot of availability to work out in general, I think what I would do is, run 3 days a week, or run 3 days a week, or start off by running 3 days a week to adapt every other day, right? Strength train 2 of the other days that you're not running, right? Like full body stuff. Focus on legs and on a lot of legs as well. You want to make sure that your muscles are nice and built up. You want to make sure that you don't get injured. Strength training is huge, very important for me. And I'm a huge advocate of strength training. So strength train 2 days a week. And then if you still have more time and you have more time in your schedule than 5 sessions, what I would do is I'd take that 6th day and I would do some cross training, right? So low impact, no impact cross training, where you can work on your cardiovascular system without the impacts of running, right? So anything from whatever you like to do. If you like to swim, if you like to, go to the gym, and you can do rowing, you can do biking, cycling, you can do anything that's non-running, maybe even go out for a hike if you're not doing a ton of impact. But you can do 1 cardio day, 2 strength training days, 3 running days, and you're already doing 6 days a week. And then take, at least 1 day off a week of complete rest to really be able that you can get up and do it again the next week and start fresh. So, that's, if you need an extra rest day, of course, throughout that sort of training plan, listen to your body, take the rest day. But that's how I would set up probably a very beginner plan for someone who's starting to run.
I would say one of the great mysteries in all of this, even for people like myself who are very experienced, long-time runners, is when you say strength training, it's just sort of like, it's like, what should I do? What should my routine be? When should I do it? Should I do it before a run, after a run, the same day as a run, the day after a run, in between my runs? What if I run 5 days a week? What if I run 7 days a week? What if I run 10 times a week? I mean, that's for a very advanced person, right?
Double sessions.
Huge kind of mystery, I think, for all runners of all ability levels. Mr. Cyr, I'm going to put you on the spot.
Go for it.
What's your just? Do you have like a go-to strength training routine that you can share with us in not 45 minutes of talking, and that you think like anybody could kind of take on? Because I think strength training, kind of like running, it's just sort of like you just kind of are expanding it out and making it more complex and more targeted over time and more specific, but initially kind of it's the same thing for everybody, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What I do is I do 2 to 3 solid strength training sessions a week, and they usually take something like 20 to 25 minutes. What you might sacrifice as a runner is these big, sexy gym PRs. I don't lift many weights. A lot of my strength training is more isometric. So it's body weight stuff. Yeah. It's 1 minute of push-ups. It's holding a hamstring curl, or having one leg on a bench and one leg on the air and trying to hold my body weight with my hamstring, that kind of thing. They are chin-ups, trying to do a few chin-ups. Ooh. It's that kind of stuff. Wow. Which is tough, right? I'm making it sound like it's easy, but it isn't easy. You just are not touching many weights. Then there's a culture around this inside of running that you should sometimes try to lift heavy. Like anything else, if you don't have much experience, go into it slowly. There are benefits to lifting heavy and just a few times, not doing it very much. That's something to experiment with. Like, for example, actually, this is a good story. I deadlift. Okay, that's part of my strength training, and that helps, right? It makes my back stronger, even like works on my hamstrings a tiny little bit. It's important. Last season, I threw out my back deadlifting because I think I took on a bit too much weight, right? I wasn't doing anything crazy, but I'm not a professional weightlifter. I'm not that experienced as a weightlifter. So it reminded me to err on the side of caution when I get to the gym. And what I did in the weeks following that is I became nervous and cautious and didn't want to touch the gym at all. I think that was a bit of a counterswing. You still need to do your strength training, but be careful. Remember, it's made to help your running. And I have a coach. My coach coaches me remotely, so it's not like he's there with me at the gym. I think something that people might benefit from if they don't have much experience at the gym would be to just get someone who's knowledgeable in that stuff. Maybe a personal trainer for a one-off session, or just a friend of yours knows their stuff, to just go to the gym with you once and give you a few pointers on, okay, am I doing this right?
Yeah, walk through some technique, because there's definitely technique involved, especially with something like deadlifting, squats. All super valuable, and they develop like your fast twitch muscles, which you don't sort of natively develop as quickly or as much when you're running, because running is long and slow for the most part in the grand scheme of things when you're developing different muscle groups. And quite frankly, when you're doing a lot of running, increasingly more running, a lot of the strength training is to kind of like counter that in a way, or to strengthen areas that get woefully underappreciated.
Sleepy.
Yes, the sleepy glutes.
Yeah.
Yes, the non-firing glutes, the useless butt.
The useless butt.
Which is very useful when you do engage your glutes. It's very useful for running, right? So things like that. I think my overall tip with strength training that I have learned over the years is just like, don't talk yourself into like the Goldilocks scenario where it's like it has to be just right in your program, in your week. It has to be this sort of, just do a bit of it, every other day. Even if you just have like a few basic free weights or a medicine ball or whatever at home, just do 30 minutes, slot it in. Do it after a run, because you're already all sweaty and fired up and motivated to do more, and just do it after a run. It's not a big deal.
I think what you mentioned, Michael, about saying like, should you do strength training before or after the run? And just to mention that, remember, running right now is our priority, right? If you're a runner, running is a priority. So you want to do the strength training after the run. If you can, give yourself a little bit of a window and do like the run in the morning and then the strength training in the afternoon. It would be best to have that like at least 4 to 6 hour window in between in between those sessions, you're probably still going to be a little more tired out for your strength, but you don't want to do your strength and then go for your run and be tired for your run. So I think it's important to say that if you can, of course, everyone has different schedules, and when you can fit it in, you can fit it in. So whenever you can, get it in. But if ideally you would want to run first, right? You would definitely want to run first. And if you want just like if you're looking just for a list of some basic exercises, and there are tons of variations of each of those exercises, but what you want to do is try to pick an exercise that's going to be compound and that you're going to hit all of the muscle groups at least once in your legs, right? So I would just say squats, lunges, glute bridges, deadlifts, step-ups, push-ups, rows, and planks. There you have you've got, I think, everything. And calf raises, right? That would be the only, calf raises. Those I think would be, if you want a starting point, you could do 3 rounds of 8 reps of each of those with body weight and then take it from there. I think that would be your best bet, just to get started on an all-around kind of quick workout.
Katelyn, I'm going to do just that today.
Okay.
And later today, after my run, I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
And we've got links to that stuff too, because we've got a huge strength training section on the site. We'll just throw a bunch of links. This is going to be this is going to be a tome, the show notes this time around, a massive resource. Okay, let's talk motivation before we get into what I think will be the most entertaining part of this pod, which will be common questions and mistakes that we have made. But before that, let's talk about a really key thing, a huge thing. It's everything. Motivation. How you stay motivated. It's very easy. Everyone knows the kind of the science or literature around New Year's resolutions or starting something or start trying to reinforce a positive habit for the first time in your life. First 20 or 30 days are relatively simple because you're highly self-motivated to do the thing. It's the shiny new toy. It's after that it becomes very challenging. And so all these trends, fitness trends out there right now, where it's the 75-day trends and that sort of thing, where it's you do a whole bunch of crazy shit for 75 days and then that's supposed to stick. But it's kind of no different in that respect. Instead, you really need to think about how you're going to motivate yourself with long, medium, and more short-term goals. And then also how to create a structure that will keep you motivated, right? You've got to foolproof this thing. You've got to protect yourself from yourself. Running is ultimately a solo endeavor, and that's very special. And it's really good for your brain, for your mental health, to go out there and just be in your own head for 30, 40, 60, 80, 120, 150, in Katelyn's case, all day minutes. But I think it's really valuable to consider joining a group, right? You guys, Alex, you're probably, you run with other people, though. You're not in a formal group, but you run with other people.
I run with other people when I can. I'm not in a formal group, but anytime I can, I do.
Yeah. And Katelyn, you run a group. You have a group. So you understand the power of the group, of running with others.
So much more motivating and fun. I love Tuesday mornings is when we have speed work together with the whole group. Wednesdays as well, and Saturdays, the long runs in the mountains. It's so much more fun running with a bunch of people than on your own. It gets you excited to be there, so if you're looking for accountability and, someone to talk to when you're running, reasons to show up, a running group is a great way to do so.
And the bond with a running partner is a very strange and powerful bond, I can say right now. Yeah. Do either of you have a running husband or wife beyond your real running husband or wife or fiance?
I do. I run with the same person every single day.
I was going to say, I'm working on getting a running wife in 2 ways. It's my fiance. I'm working on A, making her more of a runner, and B, I'm working on marrying her in about a year and a half. So in about 2 years time, I will have one, but it'll be her.
Yeah. I mean, as longtime listeners to the pod know, my wife and I are both we're equally serious about running, which is amazing because whenever we get a chance to run together, whenever the 6-year-old permits us to go running together, and he has other supervision that can entertain him. That's a special experience now. We used to run together all the time, but I also have a running husband as well. So I have a long time best running pal who, that's a deep bond. Right. So yeah, I think that's an important thing. If you're looking to stay motivated and there's somebody else in your life that is also looking to run or already runs, very valuable thing.
It's
very
amazing,
valuable connection. Deep friendship too, which is cool.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, all of my best friends to this day I've met through running, which is kind of insane.
Yeah. And it's a weird, diverse group of people, right? Because the one common denominator is running, but like in every other respect, often very different people in very many different capacities, right? So I'd say another thing is sign up for a race.
Oh, yeah.
What's the first race you guys ever signed up for? And when was it after you began your running journey? I mean, Alex, your first race was what, like getting the popsicle sticks in the schoolyard?
It was the pre-novice boys Zone 4 meet in Mill River PEI. But the first race that I actively went and signed up for outside of like the school system was that race that I mentioned.
Yeah.
The
nip slip.
The nip slip race, yes. It also ended up being the pee my pants race because I didn't fuel properly and I drank way too much water.
Oh, no.
We'll get into that one. We'll talk about beginner mistakes. You thought you were going on like an ultra marathon, so you're just like chugging the little cups of water. Yeah. Katelyn?
I went with a bunch of friends to my now husband, then friend, and then boyfriend signed me up for a 21K trail race. And it was going to be my first race. And I was like, okay, yeah, this sounds fun. I'll do it. I kind of cheated a little bit because not cheated, just like he was like, yeah, I'll run with you. So I kind of got paced. So I didn't make any like massive mistakes there because if I had probably gone on my own, probably would have burnt out 100%. But since I was kind of being paced there along running with someone, I had an amazing race and it really sparked, I'm not flexing. I'm just saying I won the race. And so it was very exciting because it was my first trail race. And I was like, okay, like, no, I think that, I'm okay at this. Like, I'm going to really get into it and start training like crazy. So it was awesome to sign up for that first race because I was excited to go to it. But then after the race, I was even more motivated because I was like, oh, I want to do a lot more things like this. So you got to sign up for a race. It will get you like completely stoked to train hard and get ready for it.
Yeah. And once you go through like once you demystify the process of signing up for a race, which is a lot easier than it was 15 years ago. Now it's just like you go to one of these like race registration portals and sign up for the race, create a profile and sign up for the race.
Is there a space for a devil's advocate here?
Oh,
of course.
Go on, Mr. Cyr.
I've had the same conversation with two separate people in the last 2 weeks. And I think it's because we're getting into New Year's resolution time. And these were two people who are curious about running, who were just starting, but who didn't want to do a race.
Okay. Yeah.
What they both said was like, I don't want to like compete necessarily. I want to run for my own health. I want to get into it. But is that okay? Is that weird? And to that, I was like, oh, that's interesting, right? There might be this propensity inside of the running world where like people will come and tell you that there's a right way of doing things, there's a wrong way of doing things. And it may be kind of ironic to say on a How to Start with Running podcast, but I think it ties into motivation, right? The best motivator, what it is for yourself. Like sometimes we're talking about like how fitness trackers are just, they're just kind of an add-on. You should be motivated internally. But I kind of changed my take on all this stuff. It's like if you are motivated by a fitness tracker, do it. If you're motivated by just being able to tell yourself that you've run 3 or 4 times this week and that's all you need, do it. If a race scares you away from running, don't do it. If you need a race, do it. If you need a running partner, do it. It's just like mental exercise you have to conduct with yourself before starting, being like, what is going to keep me going in 6 weeks, in 6 months, in a year, if you can predict it at all. And I tend to be more objective about things. So to me, this is maybe a hot take that I'm hearing myself say, but sometimes there's no proper way to tap into your motivation. We're motivated by different things. Like back in the day, I wasn't motivated by the road or half marathons. Now I am. But every year, it's like I ask myself, okay, what's getting me going this year? And then you stick with that. It's like the juice that keeps you going, right?
The action is the juice, Alex. To quote the great film Heat. Wow.
Yeah.
Alex
if you get
Cyr.
stressed by a race, that's a good point.
Yeah.
If that's just going to stress you out, then don't do it. That's a really good point, Alex.
But if it stresses you out, but it also fires you up, don't shy away from it. Then you got to do it.
It's a fine line. It's like good stress, bad stress, and it changes over time. Maybe you're comfortable with sort of bringing yourself to do a hard and scary thing at a certain juncture, and then at another point, you're just like, I don't need to add that to other, because we all live lives outside of this, fabulous running career each of us are embarking on, or with our giant obsessive hobby, right? So, yeah, if it's too much, don't do it. Although I would say that one of the powerful, special things about running is that it's doing a hard thing, and embrace doing the hard thing. And unless, of course, it's just like, it's too much, and then, it's not worth it. But I love it. Alex Cyr, 105 half marathon runner. Don't race. I love that.
But huge underline. If it scares you and it fires you up, do the hard thing. I guess it's just don't do something because you feel like someone said that's how you're supposed to do it.
Yeah, because you have to run the New York City Marathon or you're not a runner or whatever. That's not true. So, you shouldn't don't aspire to doing a marathon major just because everyone else is talking about it on Instagram. I mean, that's ridiculous. So I would say actually there's two ways of approaching it. Either just if you're not sure about running a race and you've never done one before, like there's definitely two streams of races. There's the really small local race, which the stakes are really low, but they're small. So you're kind of exposed as well, right? You're out there and you're just one of maybe 150 people or something like that. And maybe that makes you feel uncomfortable. And then there's the massive, bigger races, big city races where you're just one of thousands of people. And that mass start provides a nice level of anonymity because you're just facing the crowd, right? So that could be a way in as well. And also, like, we all have to remind ourselves, most people are just too busy with their own lives. They don't care about you. So don't worry about it. Like, you're just a person running on the road. It's cool. No one's judging you. No one's watching you, probably. And I think that's a good thing.
And if they are, they're
probably
right. No, but they're probably like, I wish I were doing that.
Yeah.
So
like,
you're probably inspiring someone. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You could actually be a motivation for someone else. So it's probably only positive.
Yeah. And PSA, that's great advice for anything that makes you nervous, that's somewhat confrontational, like public speaking or even being on a podcast. Like, people are only half listening. So listen, I'm calling you out. Listen to me. Listen.
I bank on that every week.
Yes. They've already stopped listening. No, I look out my window every day as I'm working away on my laptop. I look out my window and I see people running by every day of all stripes, all ability levels of runner. And some people who are very clearly new to running. And some that, obviously they got the Boston kit on and whatever, and they're so into it. And I think of them all equally because I'm like, you're out. I always think to myself, you're doing the work. Yep. And that's what I'm most impressed by. You're doing the work.
Yep.
All right. Let's take one final pause, and then we will get into common mistakes that we've all made and how you can hopefully avoid a few of them by us embarrassing the shit out of ourselves by admitting some of the dumb stuff we've done in the past. We'll be right back. All right, we're back. Home stretch here. Let's do some common questions that beginners have. We sort of cobbled these together. I think we've all heard these ones before. Some of them involve, embarrassing mistakes, but then also some of them are just kind of like, they're fair questions that I think I even ask myself sometimes, 20 years into this great running adventure. First things first, when does running get easier?
Hey, boy.
Yeah.
Still
Does it ever get easier?
I'm still waiting.
Yeah. I think if you ask yourself that, I think it's a really common question. It's like you've been running for like maybe a month and you're like, Jesus, this is still hard. You know, like sore after the run, tired. It was a grind. You know, yesterday's went really well. Today didn't charge the AirPods. Don't have like that playlist I can listen to fire me up and get me through this 45 minutes. Oh my gosh. Why do I do this? Why do people do this? This isn't fun. Does it ever get easier? Alex Cyr, does it ever get easier?
It gets easy. There, I think there's a 3-parter. The first few weeks that you're doing it, maybe even a couple of months, you're guessing, like you're feeling your way around and you're struggling and you keep encountering a different problem. Oh boy, a side stitch. Oh no, a real injury. Oh God, I was thirsty today. Oh, I ate too much. I ate too little. So many things.
So
after those first few months, you hit a second phase where I think things get a lot easier because you start understanding some things about yourself. Like, okay, well, I have to eat before, for example, but it has to be like 2 hours before. These are things you have to like modulate personally because everyone's a little bit different with those things. And once you start figuring those things out, eating, oh, I like these shoes, but I don't like those. I like to wear workout shoes for workouts and easy run shoes for easy run. Once you figure these things out, it's like a puzzle piece. Mm-hmm. Then you get a big rush because your daily run isn't like a minefield anymore. It just kind of goes on autopilot. That's, to me, phase 2. And in the space of like 1 or 2 months, you see things get way easier. Not even by getting all that much fitter. It's just by learning the little tricks. And then phase 3, which to me is still ongoing, and that's mostly for the rest of your running career, things don't get easier. They don't get harder, but they don't get easier. You just get faster. Mm-hmm. An easy run.
Yeah.
Yeah. You just get quicker at the thing, but it still feels the same way. You still go through the ebbs and flows of it being like, today sucks. This easy run does not feel easy, or it just feels like a drag. It feels like work.
Or you expect to go the other way, right? Where you expect that eventually an easy run is going to feel like you're doing nothing at all.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen. And easy, you still get your heart rate up.
I love that feeling. I'm looking forward to that one in 6 weeks' time. Yeah. I would say that like it's all a slow, incremental march towards some level of mastery of a craft, because that's what running kind of is. It's a craft, right? There are right ways and wrong ways of doing this. There are things to learn along the way. There are mistakes that you are going to make. There are mistakes you're going to continue making 20 years into the process, like convincing yourself you can eat 2 bowls of mini wheats 20 minutes before you're going for your run. Just as a random example, I'm pulling out of nowhere, right? Mm-hmm. Mini wheats for a 44-year-old man,
frosted,
maple frosted, absolutely.
And frostless mini wheats are psychotic.
Yeah, so who would even eat those?
My wife. She loves the old man cereal.
There's the shout out.
No, yeah. I mean, we still make these mistakes, right? Because we are human. But you can learn all these neat things along the way. I think, Alex, you just totally nailed it. It just becomes, you just get better at the thing, and it's no less challenging. And I think that's what's awesome about running, is that it's like, it's doing a hard thing all the time. And sometimes it's less hard than other times, but it's always a little bit hard. You just get comfortable with it being hard. Yes. And I think that's a very powerful skill, a very powerful like mindset to embrace as as an adult human is that like you're capable of doing hard things. And you're able to kind of like modulate how hard you can handle really hard things for short increments, and then you can do fairly hard things quite often, right? So let's say it never gets easier, and there's ebbs and flows too. Getting a little bit fit is just the most glorious thing, because it just, the easy run just feels just like nothing, right? Like you do, like I love when I get to a place where I can run 10 miles easy, come back, and I'm just like, and then just go on with my day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not there right now, but I'm looking forward to getting there.
But you'll get there. Well, get there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. That's exactly what I think, is that you just, like you said, Michael, you just get better at tolerating the pain. Sorry, guys. I know that sounds horrible, but like a threshold run is always going to be hard, because it's always going to be at a rate of perceived exertion that's going to be hard, a 6 or a 7. So you get better and you get faster, but the threshold run will never get easier. You'll just get better at tolerating that really hard effort, right? So not to discourage anyone out there, the easy runs sometimes will get better, but feel easier. But, you're always challenging yourself, so it's always going to be hard.
Life is misery and suffering. We're just choosing to be miserable
and we're back
and suffer.
on JP.
We're back.
We went full circle. Thank
you.
There
you go. Can you do, you have to do the next, you have to answer the next question with the Jordan Peterson voice. No. Okay. So how to deal with side stitches is a really common question. It's like, how do you, I mean, it's a Pandora's box. I'm not sure. I think I think the science on the side stitch is it's still very murky. Like why
they're an
happen.
enigma. Yeah.
I've had bad ones.
Alexis had one the other day, and she asked me what it was, and I had to look her in the eyes and say, "I have no idea. I don't know. I've had many."
Yeah.
like,
And no one knows what to do.
Yeah, and it's like, well, will it be gone tomorrow? I said, absolutely yes, but I don't know how you can prevent having it again. It will happen again at a random time. There's almost
like this like weird, dangerous headspace. I think a lot of it is very mental, where it's like you start thinking about it, you start worrying. If you've had a side stitch haunt you in a race or a workout, it sort of like looms in the back of your mind in the next race or the next workout. And then you can almost, when things start to get hard and your breathing rate is high and you're out of like whatever zone or heart rate that you should be operating in, you're in danger of slipping into side stitch hell, right? I've had it wreck. The only marathon I really, really, really screwed up is Chicago 2011. Got a wicked side stitch about halfway through, wrecked the entire race. Couldn't shake it.
Yep.
Still felt it like hours later, because I think what you're just doing is exacerbating it as you're trying to get through it, right? There are breathing techniques. Put some links in the show notes. Some breathing techniques. But I think ultimately the side stitch is a mental, physical, mind-body thing. Get into like Cartesian philosophy here, but like it's a connection between the mind-body where I think you're probably out of your comfort zone of where you should be with whatever it is you're doing. And then your brain is starting to send alarm bells, like this isn't good. And then shit starts falling apart. Okay. Is it normal to feel out of breath when I start running? I think we sort of touched upon this before.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is use the talk test.
Yep.
If you're just running easy, see if you can get it down to a pace where you can actually have a conversation with someone next to you, or say a phrase to yourself out loud without hyperventilating. You're probably running too fast. Most people they're just running too fast. Just slow it down. Just like slow it right down. How do I know when my running shoes fit properly? Alex, do you have like you try on like literally hundreds of shoes a year.
Yeah.
Not every brand is exactly the same. Like the whole true to size thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a couple things. I mean, it would be good to know if you have a narrow or a wide foot, because that's something that we don't really talk about when it comes to sizes. And so if you do have a narrow foot, especially, or a wide foot, that might make a shoe that's the opposite not feel that good. So try to get a read for that. Try shoes on before getting them.
Yeah.
In terms of length, same thing. I'm a huge proponent of going to the store and putting the shoe on.
Yep.
There's a treadmill there. Get on the treadmill and run on it and see. There's this like weird thing about, like, I don't know if this is the case in some other sports where like they say the shoe should be really small. Your toes should hit the back, the bottom, or the end. Not in running.
No. You need a little space.
Yep.
Your foot will swell a little bit too, right? So
right.
You might even be more comfortable a half size bigger than your walking footwear would be.
Mine are, half size bigger. Almost always,
I go true to size, but it depends on, like, I go like US size 12, both for walking shoe and running shoe. So I stick with that. So warming up before running. Do you guys do it? If so, what do you do? And I'll tie this into stretching, sort of warming up sibling. Do you run? Do you warm up? Do you warm up before you run? Do you stretch before? Do you stretch after?
I got to warm up before a workout. Like, and I don't know, this came with age. This came on about 3, 4, 5 years ago that I said, whoa, that fast session did not come out right because I only, did a warm up. I only jogged for 10 minutes instead of 20 or 25 minutes. So I think what's happening to me now is, or my regimen is that I need to add a warm up in to any workout, anything that's fast, any intervals, threshold, anything like that. I've got to warm up for about 20 to 25 minutes of jogging. And if I have time to do a couple, classic dynamic stretches of something that I'm feeling, something that hasn't been just right, I got to like loosen up hips or glutes before I get going, I'll throw it in there. But the jog is absolutely necessary. So I've got to do an easy pace jog for about 20 to 25 minutes before any workouts. If I'm going to do an easy run, I don't need to warm up for it because just the whole idea is that I'm going to be pretty much jogging. So I'm not going to warm up. I'll only do like some dynamic stretches if I really need to. Like I said, if I feel something's a little off, I do a bit of dynamic stretching. Dynamic stretching, by the way, is stretching in movement, not static stretching. We'll probably get there in a sec, talking about stretching in general. But easy run, no. Long run, if it's going to have intervals in it, the first section of the long run will also have to be easy, right? So gotta get the jog in and get the muscles warmed up if I want to have any shot at getting my paces in for workouts.
Yeah, I'm with you, Katelyn, 100%. Yep. One thing I always do, no matter what, especially if I'm like sitting for a long time and then hop right into a run or workout, like I never do that. I do some I call them activation exercises, which I guess are a take on dynamic stretches. So a lot of hip things like leg swings, hip mobility, doing like circles with my legs, trying to make sure my hips are nice and open because that's led to a lot of injuries, not taking care of that in previous years. And another thing I keep with me like pretty much all the time is this lacrosse ball. And I like to roll it under my feet to wake my feet up in lower legs.
Ouch.
Yes. And if you do it every day, it doesn't hurt that much. It's kind of like running a 10K all out.
There you go.
You guys will be surprised to learn that when I was doing my 5 times 10K all out approach to running, didn't do a whole lot of warming up.
Shocking.
In fact, zero warming up. The watch, the Timex Ironman watch started when I stepped out of my apartment door, and that was go time.
Nice.
So yeah, I'm the same thing. I've actually always found this, even going back many years, is that I found like with a workout or a shorter race, I needed like 20 to 30 minutes just to feel settled and to feel like my body was on side and ready to go. So I still do that. I still think to myself, and I have some A-type kind of like antsy, worked up running partners who are just like, sometimes they're like, well, let's just like, it's a big, huge, meaty workout with a lot of threshold pace. let's just run for 5 minutes and jump into the workout. I'm like, and I always refuse. I'm like, no,
I can't.
We need to run for 20 minutes because I cannot just go into this thing hot. Even like marathon pace, like I back in for a couple of reasons in a long run. One, just being, why do marathon pace when it's like, challenge yourself in the second half of the long run. That's my thinking. But then also just like, I like to be nice and warmed up for it. So yeah. Do you guys stretch afterwards?
I should more than I do.
No,
I did today.
Should you?
Did today. Well,
should you?
For me, I really do feel like it helps me avoid just like annoying niggles in muscles. Like I feel, or just having a little bit more flexibility in general, like to be able to tie my shoes. You know what I'm saying? Like just normal things so I can bend over and like tie my shoe.
You can bend over and tie your shoes?
Wow.
So only sometimes. That's what I'm saying.
Only if you've been stretching. Yeah, no. Yeah.
If I don't, I feel really stiff. Like I feel super stiff. So I try to, especially when I do a harder workout, but I'm not going to lie and say that I do it every single time. But when I do, I feel better. I do.
Yeah, the jury's out on this one. I've never really stretched after running, and I'm somebody who hasn't had an injury in a really, really long time. And maybe I'm just not going hard enough. I don't know. But I think the main key is actually just to like cool down, is to either do some easy running after you've done something hard and intense to your body. Or in some cases, like I'll just walk for a bit. Like when it's a long run, for example, and you're like, you ran 20 miles and you had a bunch of work in there and you're just like, I'm completely cooked and there is no need. And it's actually not a healthy thing to continue running after that for any reason. I'll just walk around my block for 10 minutes just to like bring my heart rate down, kind of let the blood flow continue to do its thing and just, walk a little bit, and helps the legs feel better. I don't like immediately go inside and sit down. Like that's that's a bad idea. So that would be my recommendation. That what's the best way to prevent injuries while running? I think we've kind of covered this with just like moderation. Hydration, I'd say, is important. Probably drink more water than you're already drinking, because people sweat a lot, and more than you'd like to, more than I'd like to admit.
Me too.
That's right, team sweater over here, Katelyn and I.
That's right, sweating as we speak.
Yep. And it gets late in the pods. People start sharing. How do I stay consistent running with the running routine? I would say just like create goals.
Yep.
Target those goals, medium, long-term, and short-term goals.
Follow plan.
Follow a plan.
Yep.
All running plan. So you just set it and forget it. Tomorrow I run this, and that's what you have to do. Should I run in the morning, the afternoon, or the evening?
When you feel best and when you can fit it in, right?
You do you.
Yep.
Yeah. The only like time restriction I ever give someone when they ask is, if you can help it, don't run right before bed, because then it's really hard to get to sleep.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, anytime.
I have a curfew. I have like a running curfew because I used to be a night runner in my previous life. And then I just wouldn't sleep.
Yep.
So I have like, if I can't get out to run an easy run before 8 p.m., that's the latest. Even 8 p.m., it's danger.
Pushing it.
Especially if I'm doing something like 10 miles, I'll get in at 9 something. And then I'm like, got to eat, amped up. Then it's midnight before I'm even thinking about going to sleep. And that's dangerous. So I would say, create a curfew for yourself. Know yourself. I think often running in the morning, it's the best. Just because you get it out of the way, get it done.
For me, it's the best. I always feel the best in the morning too.
Yeah. So we're all team morning. Alex, are you?
Usually morning. Today I'm afternoon though. I haven't gone yet.
Same here. TBD. But I'm an evening workout person though. I've just always done my workout on a Wednesday or a Thursday night at around 6:30. That's just always how, when I've done the workout, and it's fine. It works out just fine. So, all right, guys, before we wrap this up, I think we've been very comprehensive. I think we've covered it all.
Yeah.
Final thoughts. What's one piece of advice that you would like to share with a new runner, somebody getting back into running, somebody, say, for example, who hasn't run in the first week of 2025 at all? I don't know, crazy person. What would your piece of advice be for someone who's getting into running? Alex.
Don't compare your times with other people. I knew two men who were both 27 years old, who both picked up running last year, who both tested themselves in a half marathon, who both had histories as athletes of other sports, who both weighed something like 200 pounds. One of them ran 141 in the half. The other one ran 217. And that's just the way it goes. Since then, they've both continued running, and they've both improved at different rates. On paper, they were the same person. And then on the race course, they're completely different. Mm-hmm. Comparison is the thief of joy. I forget who said that, but that's such a good quote.
Yeah.
You are going to drive yourself nuts comparing yourself to people who are more physiologically talented than you. We all have that person that we just look at them and wonder, how do they do it? But the thing is, someone is also looking at you that way. We exist on this massive spectrum, and it's useless to compare yourself to other people. Compare yourself to yourself from the year before, because you can glean a lot of good insight from that. But after that, put the yardstick away.
Wow,
that was great.
If that's a social media clip cut out, if I ever heard one in my life. Well done, Mr. Cyr. And great advice. Absolutely great advice. Absolutely great advice.
Can I mess it up with a Jordan Peterson quote now?
Is that what that is?
And also, all right, that's enough.
All right, Katelyn, follow that one up.
Oh yeah, I don't think mine is, but I had a breakthrough, and this I can credit also to Alex, and it's going to go hand in hand with my advice. We spoke on the New Year's resolution pod about something similar to this, and Alex said that you can change if you really want to change, and you can see yourself within the change. Okay, guys, I changed, and this is my piece of advice that I'm going to give people that I finally followed for the first time this last week. Listen to your body. It sounds cliche. It sounds like, yeah, duh, that's easy. Everyone does it. Well, guess what? I've been running for over a decade and I've never done it. I always fight against how I feel. And last week I got really sick. I can't remember the last time I've been in bed with the flu or a terrible cold or anything like that. When I get sick, I go out and run. It's a terrible idea. You don't cure. You don't cure up fast enough. You don't feel better. You have garbage runs that don't help the situation at all. And so last week I felt terrible, got really sick, did not go out to run for 2 days. And I said, wow, I can do this. I can change. I can be a mature person who's going to listen to their bodies. And tried to go out the fourth day feeling much better, had a long run fail. If anyone follows me on Strava, I actually literally wrote long run fail, still sick. On any other day, I would have pushed through, run myself into the ground. Even if I was walking, I would have finished that long run in any other situation. But I said, no, I feel really bad, and maybe I'll be able to get out and give it another run tomorrow. I go tomorrow, the day after tomorrow. So I would say there's no shame in needing to take a day off if you really need to take a day off. I mean, there's a big difference between not going out to run because you don't want to, and because you're feeling lazy, and because you don't want to continue, and being sick, or just something not being right, being under a lot of stress, and saying, no, I really need to take the day, because if I run, it's going to be garbage and I'm going to feel worse about it. So I would say really take this into consideration, especially as a beginner, even as an experienced runner, and just listen to your body. And if you need to take that day, take the day.
my one piece of advice for a new runner or someone who's coming back to running after a long period of time, and this is kind of counter to the Katelyn advice, but in a good way, I would say, because we've talked in the past about how there's sort of like fundamentally almost like just two different types of people, and running sort of like pulls that out, where it's like there's those who need to be reined in, who need to be told like, you can do a little less. You can take a day off today. It's okay. You can slow that easy pace down a little bit. That's a very common sort of runner. And I think for most real dyed-in-the-wool long-time runners, that's like most runners, like A-type wired individuals, right?
Right.
And then there's the rest of us over here who are need a kick in the pants sometimes. And
who have maybe a B or type B written right on their hats as they're speaking on this podcast.
For example, it does not stand for Brooks, my hat. It stands for B-type runner. And to my fellow B-type runners out there, I offer you one simple hack, which is what I like to call imposing the 5-minute rule, which means if you're, say, staring at the outdoors out the window and it's pissing rain and it's 9:30 at night and you didn't run today, you didn't run yesterday, your plan says you should have been running and you kind of know you should be running, and you're finding all of the excuses, the siren song of Netflix, those 2 bowls of frosted mini wheats that you've just eaten, and you're talking yourself out of yet another run. I say to you, just impose the 5-minute rule upon yourself. And the 5-minute rule is put your shoes on and go outside and run for 5 minutes. After 5 minutes, you can come back. You don't have to run after 5 minutes if you don't want to. So impose the 5-minute rule upon yourself. If you know what I'm talking about, and if you kind of know this hack, you know that no one ever just runs for 5 minutes and comes back. Unless it's really shitty outside. Like, apocalyptically bad. But impose the 5-minute rule. If you're struggling with motivation, just tell yourself, put the shoes on right now, put the gear on, I'm going to go out the door, I'm going to find the GPS signal, I'm going to run for 5 minutes, I'm going to put down 5 minutes on my watch. And then after that, I've got full license just to come back and shut it down. And you'll get your run done. That's my advice.
Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right, guys. I think we did it. I think if you've made it here to the end of this podcast, congratulations. You are a runner, or you found your way back. Let's go do this. Let's keep running. If you have any questions for us at all, you can email us at info@marathonhandbook.com. You can DM us. You can slide into our DMs just like Katelyn does with Tom Brady's Instagram account. And
I cannot believe you just said that. Tom Brady, are you in
Easter egg
Costa
for
Rica?
our listeners? Yeah. Tom, TB12, are you in Costa Rica right now?
Are you in Costa Rica right now?
I can show you some great running routes. Okay. I too am pliable. All right. Yeah. Follow us on Instagram, our YouTube channel, subscribe. Mr. Cyr and company put out, you guys are cranking out the hits. We got a special couple of videos coming in the next couple of weeks. We've got, what do we call this? We call this Project Winter Soldier. What are we going to call this, Alex?
We need a name. Yeah. Project Escape from the Canadian Winter. Yeah. We're
going, and Katelyn, we're filming some treadmill related content in an undisclosed location. Like, we're talking like Rocky training camp style stuff up in the mountains.
Nice.
It'll be cool. So keep an eye out on that on our YouTube channel, as well as like 2 reviews. And we're going to get into more training content in 2025 as well. So you can just search Marathon Handbook in YouTube and you'll find us there. And what else? Yeah. Share this pod. If you have gotten through this entire podcast and you like what you hear, this, I think, is a good episode. Do us a favor, share it with a new runner or with somebody that you know that needs a kick in the pants, and hopefully that will help them along in their running journey. And give us a review, rate us on your favorite podcasting app. And you can also watch a video version of this podcast on YouTube and on Spotify every Thursday morning at 5-ish in the morning Eastern time. It drops. All right, gang. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being my friends. Let's talk again next Thursday. And now I have to actually run for the first time in 2025.
Good luck.
Let's make it a 10K.
All out.
To quote Mr. Brady, let's go. All right.
Here's the explicit.
There we go. Wow. Why not?
In the last 10 seconds.
Start 2025 off right. All right. Till next week.